Is resurrection possible? Or is it just a metaphorical way to describe the divine influence? Is it common across different religions and beliefs? And how does science explain it? Let's explore ancient Egyptian wisdom, Hindu beliefs, the Bible, and scientific perspectives to seek similarities and differences, and perhaps even uncover answers to these profound questions. Each tradition brings a unique perspective to resurrection, to the journey of the soul, and the deeper meanings and impacts on its culture. Before we dive in, please like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who might enjoy it. Your support helps me a lot, and I truly appreciate it. How does science treat examples of resurrection found in different beliefs? There is one piece of evidence, besides the written accounts in the Gospels, available for scientific research and exploration, which raises more questions than it answers for scientists, but provides awe and inspiration for believers. The Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth bearing the faint image of a man who appears to have suffered physical trauma consistent with crucifixion. It is housed in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, and is considered by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Its authenticity remains one of the most debated topics in history, science, and archaeology. The shroud's exact origins are unknown. Some claim it dates back to Jesus' crucifixion and burial, around 30 to 33 CE. A cloth known as the mandilion, bearing a facial image of Christ, was worshipped in Edessa, modern-day Turkey, around the 6th century, and might be an early reference to the shroud. The first undisputed appearance of the shroud was in 1354 in Lille, France, when it was displayed by French knight Geoffroy de Charny. The House of Savoy acquired the shroud in 1453, and it was moved to Turin, Italy, in 1578, where it has remained since. Studies of microscopic particles from the shroud have detected human DNA from multiple ethnic groups, including Jewish populations, suggesting it was handled by many over centuries. The shroud has been periodically displayed to the public, drawing millions of pilgrims. It was photographed for the first time in 1898 by Secondo Pia. He discovered that the image is a negative. The photographic negative revealed more detail than the visible image. And here begins the mystery of the shroud. Photographic and 3D imaging. The shroud's image behaves like a photographic negative. When reverted, it turns from flat to 3Ds, with depth dependent on the distance between the face and the fabric. Incredibly detailed, this image produces a lifelike representation of a human form. No known artwork can replicate it. All attempts have failed. The method by which the image was imprinted on the cloth remains unknown. There are no traces of paint, dye, or pigments. Researchers have explored the possibility that the faint, detailed image on the shroud might have been created by a burst of high-energy radiation. This theory emerged as an attempt to explain several characteristics of the shroud's image that are difficult to reproduce using conventional means, such as superficial image. The image on the shroud is extremely superficial, penetrating only the top few micrometers of the linen fibers. This characteristic aligns with a type of energy transfer, such as radiation, rather than contact with pigments or dyes. Microscopic uniformity. The coloration of the fibers is uniform at the microscopic level, pointing to a form of energy exposure rather than manual application. UV radiation also explains the negativity of the image, with light and dark areas inverted. This optical quality is typical of photographic processes, but not of painting. Detailed examinations, including chemical and microscopic analyses, have found no traces of paint, dye, or any other artistic medium that could account for the image. One of the most notable studies was conducted in 2011 by the Italian research group ENIA, Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy, and Sustainable Economic Development. Using advanced technology, they experimented with high-intensity UV lasers to recreate the superficial effects seen on the shroud. They successfully created a similar superficial discoloration on linen, using short bursts of high-intensity UV laser light. However, even the most advanced UV lasers available today could only replicate the effect on a very small scale and required an energy output far greater than any natural or man-made source known. The researchers calculated that producing an image with the shroud's dimensions and properties would require an enormous burst of UV light, equivalent to billions of watts of energy over a fraction of a second. This level of energy far exceeds what medieval technology could achieve and is beyond what is currently feasible, even with modern technology. This finding boldly challenges the hypothesis of fraud. Still, skeptics argue that beyond the UV radiation hypothesis, natural processes or phenomena, like chemical or environmental reactions, may account for the image. However, no viable or experimentally confirmed version has been suggested. Somehow, when it comes to God, all the scientific methods and approaches are hypocritically violated. What is unacceptable in relation to, for example, physical hypotheses, is shamelessly applied to hypotheses about God and the divine. In the case of the shroud, if the most viable hypothesis of UV radiation, which best explains the image, supports the idea of an intense burst of energy during the resurrection, it is aggressively denied, even though skeptics cannot refute it or suggest a working alternative. This tendency among some scientists to dismiss divine hypotheses reflects a bias that often prioritizes philosophical naturalism over an honest evaluation of the evidence. Image formation. Returning to the shroud, besides the face, it also depicts a detailed image of a man with wounds corresponding to those described in the crucifixion of Jesus, including piercing wounds in the wrists and feet, a side wound consistent with a Roman spear, marks on the back and shoulders resembling scourging, a head wound suggesting a crown of thorns, bloodstains, and medical analysis. The reddish stains on the cloth have been identified as real human blood, type AB. The blood remains reddish, not brown. What preserved it? The answer could be bilirubin, formed in large quantities as a result of continuous torture and bleeding. The positioning of the bloodstains corresponds accurately with anatomical studies of a crucified man, including the flow patterns from wounds caused by crucifixion. The radiocarbon dating controversy. In 1988, radiocarbon tests dated the shroud to 1260 to 1390 CE, suggesting it is a medieval artifact. Critics argue that the sample used in the test was taken from a patch added during the Middle Ages and not the original cloth, as the shroud shows signs of repair, while the original shroud tissue is inexplicably resistant to aging and shows a lack of decay. Pollen and material evidence. Researchers have found pollen grains and dust on the shroud consistent with plants native to the Middle East, particularly around Jerusalem. Traces of limestone on the cloth resemble those found in tombs around Jerusalem. The Shroud of Turin remains one of history's greatest enigmas. The fact that its mysteries cannot be explained using the latest methods and tools speaks in favor of its extraordinary, if not divine, origin. Despite all the skepticism surrounding resurrection stories and various beliefs, science delves deeply into the question, conducting extensive research to develop mechanisms either to resurrect the dead or to provide immortality to the living. Is it hypocrisy, double standards, or just selective skepticism? The focus of scientific exploration remains on the body and consciousness, treated as the outcome of brain activity. This means that if the existence of a soul is postulated, then no matter what scientific discoveries are made, they will never be sufficient. An eternal soul cannot be detected with a material microscope, so this hypothesis cannot be proven. Nevertheless, even with the physical aspects of resurrection, there are still many open questions. Science is evolving methods to preserve, clone, or recreate the body, including its brain activity. Cryonics, freezing for future revival. Cryonics is the process of preserving a body at extremely low temperatures post-mortem, with the hope that future technology will be capable of reversing death. Companies like Alcor and the Cryonics Institute have preserved hundreds of individuals in liquid nitrogen. However, there are current limitations, such as ice crystal formation during freezing, which causes cellular damage, and uncertainty about whether a brain could be reanimated without losing individuality. Scientists are betting on quantum computing and nanobots, which may one day repair cellular damage or regenerate tissues. For now, however, cryonics is little more than an extremely expensive funeral ritual. Resurrection via cloning. Cloning represents another potential pathway to resurrection. Although currently limited to animals like Dolly the sheep, human cloning could theoretically create an exact genetic duplicate of a deceased individual. Combined with advances in memory transfer, this might offer a route to resurrecting a person in both body and mind. De-extinction projects, such as efforts to revive the woolly mammoth, serve as stepping stones toward resurrecting individual humans. By using preserved DNA, scientists are trying to bring extinct species back to life. While these experiments focus on animals, they are paving the way for future human experiments, which are currently prohibited. However, there is no guarantee countries will not conduct such research unofficially or in secret. Synthetic biology and cellular regeneration. Modern science has made strides in cellular regeneration, a cornerstone for any future resurrection technology. Techniques like induced pluripotent stem cells, iPSCs, allow researchers to reprogram adult cells into a stem-like state, potentially regenerating damaged tissues or entire organs. Experiments with salamanders and axolotls, creatures capable of regenerating entire limbs, are providing insights into human applications. While organ transplantation has reached incredible levels, and growing organs is the next level to cure diseases, the one organ that cannot currently be transplanted, however, is the brain. However, exactly the brain is the point of active research, aiming to find the answers to questions like, what is consciousness? What is personality? Which means preserving personality is impossible without answers to those questions and understanding of who we are. And here scientists face the challenge of preserving not only the physical body, cell by cell, but also the personality, including memories, cognitive abilities, and consciousness. Research in this field is actively ongoing. For example, reanimating brain activity. Scientific efforts to revive brain function after clinical death have shown promise. In 2019, Yale scientists used a system called Brain-EX to partially restore cellular activity in pig brains hours after death. Although consciousness was not re-established, this breakthrough suggests that death may be more reversible than previously thought. Ethical considerations arise, however. If brain function is revived without restoring consciousness, what does this mean for identity and humanity? Such cases raise profound philosophical dilemmas about the nature of personhood and who or what this brain activity represents. Digital immortality. Also, the concept of digital immortality, as mind uploading and virtual avatars, brings up the ethical and moral questions. Digital immortality, also known as mind uploading or whole brain emulation, aims to transfer a person's consciousness into a computer or robotic avatar. This is one of the boldest scientific pursuits today. In recent years, advancements in neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and computing have brought this concept closer to realization. The goal is to develop brain-machine interfaces that may one day allow people to upload their memories, emotions, and thoughts into digital form. This idea of transferring consciousness to a machine involves several steps. Mapping the brain. Creating a detailed map of the brain's structure, including all neurons, synapses, and biochemical processes. Simulation. Using a computer or artificial neural network to emulate the functioning of the brain. Integration. Transferring or linking an individual's identity, memories, and thought patterns to the emulated system. While smaller neural networks, e.g., parts of a rat's brain, have been simulated, replicating a human brain remains a distant goal due to technological limits, as scanning and simulating the approximately 86 billion neurons in a human brain with trillions of connections at molecular level precision is beyond current computational power. Cognitive emulation. As advanced AI models like GPT and large language models mimic some aspects of human thinking, but replicating entire consciousness involves far more than these isolated tasks. And each of these steps faces fundamental challenges, including understanding consciousness itself, replicating the brain's complex functions, and solving ethical issues. Understanding consciousness remains an unresolved issue. Science has yet to determine what consciousness is and how it arises in the brain before it could be transferred to a digital medium. Neural interface. Neural interface technologies such as Elon Musk's Neuralink and other brain-computer interface (BCI) projects aim to directly connect human brains to computers. These could serve as stepping stones for more advanced brain-machine integration. However, it also needs answers to questions about consciousness and identity. While true mind uploading is still speculative, progress in related fields does exist. For instance, brain-computer interfaces are being used to restore movement in paralyzed individuals or to allow direct control of prosthetics. Similarly, AI systems are increasingly capable of replicating tasks traditionally associated with human intelligence, such as reasoning and language understanding. Detailed maps of smaller brains, like those of nematodes, have been created and partially simulated. However, the leap from these advancements to creating an avatar capable of housing human consciousness may still be decades or centuries away. This is reminiscent of the movie Avatar, where minds inhabit new bodies and continue living in a different form. It suggests a type of resurrection unbound from biology. If successful, this technology could redefine life and death. Even though the breakthroughs needed might take years, philosophical and even legal questions are already arising. If a digital copy of a person is created, is it truly them or merely a replica? And who is responsible for the actions of a robotic clone?
For instance, imagine a living person whose digitally transferred brain inhabits another biological body. If the recipient commits a crime, who is held accountable, the donor, the recipient, or both? Such scenarios open the door to significant ethical and criminal challenges. More philosophical question is, if a copy of your mind exists, does the original you persist? And finally, rephrasing some popular question, who wants to live forever here? Eventually, all considered beliefs suggest cases of resurrection as manifestation of divine power over a humble material body, highlighting the immortality of eternal soul. Science tries to get around such an annoying limitation as the eternal soul and focus on resurrecting bodies only. Science often demands answers, yet denies possibilities that don't fit within its framework. While faith embraces mystery and sometimes offers answers, science cannot. Perhaps it's time to question not just resurrection, but how we define truth itself. So what is the probability then that resurrection is possible? My answer is the probability of God. I hope you enjoyed this video and discovered some new and captivating ideas today. I am deeply grateful to everyone who supports me. If you haven't yet, and would like to, please support me by links below or by using the Super Thanks button on YouTube. Thank you for every like, comment, and subscription. See you in my next video.